In this tutorial, we will walk through how to retrieve data from a SharePoint list, parse it using the parse JSON action, and access specific fields, including nested objects and handling null values. Our example will use the project tasks list we created earlier, which includes fields such as title, assigned to, due date, and department. Table of contents. Accessing Power Automate. Creating a new instant flow. Adding the Get Items action to retrieve SharePoint data. Adding the Parse JSON action. Running the flow to capture JSON structure. Generating the JSON schema. Handling complex fields and potential errors. Iterating through the JSON with Apply to Each. Testing and verifying the flow. Best practices. Before diving into the steps of building the flow, let's quickly go over how to access Power Automate. This step ensures you start off on the right foot by successfully navigating to the application. From the Microsoft Office 365 home screen, move your mouse to the upper left corner where you see the App Launcher, the grid icon. Click on the App Launcher icon. This will open a menu displaying all your available Office applications. In the App Launcher, scroll through the list of apps or type Power Automate into the search box at the top of the launcher. This feature allows you to quickly locate the app without scrolling through multiple options. Once you see Power Automate, click on it to launch the app. The interface will load, displaying your flows and a variety of options to create new flows. Now that we have our Power Automate interface open, let's create a new instant flow that will be triggered manually when we need to work with SharePoint data. This step sets the foundation for our data processing. Start a new flow. Look at the left-hand side menu and find the Create button, usually represented by a plus sign or Create text. Click on Create. This action will navigate you to the flow creation interface. Select Instant Cloud Flow. In the Create section, find the Instant Cloud Flow option. This option is best for flows that are manually triggered by the user. Click on Instant Cloud Flow. This will present a dialog box to set up the flow. Name your flow. In the dialog box that appears, you will see a field labeled Flow Name. Enter a meaningful name, such as Parse Project Tasks JSON. A descriptive name will make it easier to identify your flow later. Choose a trigger. Under Choose how to trigger this flow, select Manually Trigger a Flow. This allows you to manually test the flow as needed. After selecting it, click on the Create button at the bottom of the dialog. Your flow has now been initialized. With the flow created, it's time to retrieve data from the SharePoint list, which will provide the data we need for parsing. Move your mouse to the plus New Step button located below the trigger action. This is where you will add subsequent actions to your flow. Click on plus New Step. This will open the Action Selection panel. Search for Get Items. In the Choose an Action search bar, type Get Items. As you type, Power Automate will filter the results to show relevant actions. Click on the Get Items action when it appears in the results. This action retrieves all items from the specified SharePoint list. Configure Get Items. In the Get Items action configuration panel that appears. Site address. Click on the drop-down and select the SharePoint site where your project tasks list is located. Make sure to choose the correct site to avoid errors. List name. In the drop-down under List Name, select Project Tasks. This will configure the action to pull data from this specific list. At this point, you have successfully configured the action to retrieve all items from your SharePoint list. Step 4. Add the Parse JSON action. After retrieving the data from the SharePoint list, we need to parse it to ensure it can be correctly processed in subsequent steps. Add and configure the Parse JSON action. Click the plus New Step button again below the Get Items action. Each step in your flow builds upon the last, creating a chain of actions. In the Choose an Action search bar, type Parse JSON. and select it from the list. This action will help us work with the JSON data retrieved from SharePoint. Click inside the content field and select the body from the dynamic content list that appears. This corresponds to the output from the Get Items action and is where the actual data is located. Schema. In the Schema field, enter an empty object placeholder by typing curly brackets. This acts as a temporary placeholder to facilitate schema generation. The Parse JSON action is now set up to process the data retrieved from the SharePoint list. Step 5. Run the flow to capture JSON structure. Now we'll run the flow to capture the JSON structure returned by the SharePoint Get Items action. This step ensures we have the correct structure for our schema. Step 5.1. Save and run the flow. Save your flow. Look for the Save button, usually located in the top right corner of the interface. Click on it to save your changes. This is crucial to avoid losing any configurations made during this process. Run the flow. Since this is an instant flow, you will be able to run the flow directly from the main interface without navigating to a run history. After saving, click on the Run button next to the Test button at the top right of the flow editor. A dialog box will appear to confirm your action. Click Run Flow to execute it. Check the output. Once the flow completes running, click on the Parse JSON action within the flow editor. Scroll down to the Outputs section and look for the body output generated by the Get Items action. Click on Copy to Clipboard to copy the JSON output for the next steps. At this point, you have successfully executed the flow and gathered the JSON output for schema generation. With the actual JSON output copied, we can now generate the schema needed for the Parse JSON action. This schema will define the structure of the data we're working with. Go back to the Parse JSON action in the editor. Click on the Generate from Sample link, usually just below the Schema field. This will allow you to create a schema based on the JSON structure. Paste the copied JSON. In the dialog that appears, paste the JSON output you copied from the previous step into the input box. Ensure you have copied the entire output to avoid missing any essential fields. Click the Done button to generate the schema automatically based on the provided JSON structure. The schema will include all properties that the JSON data contains. Review and save your flow. Take a moment to review the generated schema to ensure it accurately represents the structure of your JSON data. Look for any properties that may be incorrectly typed or missing. After reviewing, make sure to click the Save button once more to ensure all changes are preserved. Click on Test again, and follow the same steps as before to run the flow manually. Observe the output closely for any error messages that may appear. If you encounter an error such as invalid type, expected string but got null, this indicates that a field in the JSON is returning a null value where a string is expected. It's essential to handle these null values in the schema to avoid runtime errors. Updating the JSON schema. Modify the schema. Open the Schema field in the Parse JSON action. Here's where you need to manage types effectively. For each field that might return null, you should define the type as follows. Change the type for the department field to be an array of strings or a nullable type. You can do this by wrapping the type definition as type, string, null. Repeat this for any fields you expect to encounter null values. Save to apply your changes. This step ensures your flow can handle potential null values correctly moving forward. Iterate through the JSON with Apply to Each. With the JSON parsed correctly, we can now process each item individually using the Apply to Each action. This action allows us to loop through the items in the parsed JSON. Click on New Step again. Search for Apply to Each in the Action Selection panel and select it. Configure Apply to Each. In the Select an Output from Previous Steps field, select the body output from the Parse JSON action. This configuration tells Power Automate to iterate through each item in the parsed JSON output. Inside the Apply to Each container, click on Add an Action. You can add various actions here, such as Compose to create a structured output for each item. Accessing nested properties. When adding a Compose action, click inside the Inputs field and reference the specific properties of the current item using Items, Apply to Each. Title. This expression uses the items function to reference the current item being processed in the loop. Accessing nested objects. For nested objects, such as the assigned to field, which is likely an object containing properties like display name and department, reference it similarly. Items, apply to each, assigned to, display name. After setting up your flow with the ability to parse JSON and iterate through items, it's time to test it out fully. Click on Test, then select Run Flow to initiate the execution. After a few moments, you'll see the flow run and process each item in your project tasks list. Check the outputs. Click on the Apply to Each action to expand it and view the results for each iteration. Inside the Compose action, check if the values for title, assigned to, due date, and department are displayed correctly. This step ensures that everything is working as intended. Reviewing the output. Make sure to check for any unexpected null values or errors during the iteration. If you encounter issues, revisit the parsed JSON configuration to ensure everything is correctly set up. Implementing best practices will help you maintain clarity, efficiency, and robustness in your automation processes. Best practice. 1. Use optional. Best practice 2. Modular flow design structure. Your flow into manageable components. It's a good idea to test each segment of the flow independently before integrating them. For example, validate the getItems action before proceeding to the parse JSON step. Best practice 3. Meaningful action names. Give your actions clear and descriptive names, such as parse JSON, project tasks, and apply to each. Process tasks. This practice will help you and others understand the purpose of each action at a glance. Best practice 4. Saving your work regularly helps prevent data loss and allows you to quickly revert to previous versions if necessary. This practice is essential, especially in longer flows. Best practice 5. Document your flow. Consider adding comments or descriptions to your actions to explain complex logic or decisions made during the flow creation. This documentation will be invaluable for future reference or for anyone else who may work on your flow. By following this comprehensive guide, you will have successfully created a robust Power Automate flow that retrieves and processes JSON data from a SharePoint list. This flow allows you to handle complex and nested data structures while gracefully managing potential null values. With these skills, you are now better equipped to automate tasks and streamline processes using Power Automate, enhancing your productivity and efficiency in the digital workspace.